let's get on here with what we've been doing. So, I told you to make me go somewhere. Where did I tell you to make me go to? 14, thanks. Okay. So, we're on this missionary journey. Some call it the first or second. I can't keep track of them all. But basically what happens is Paul goes into the synagogues in each place, and as Acts presented, the Jews, stirred, filled with envy, were, like line 45 of chapter 13, blaspheming. You have to admit, it's not a very sympathetic picture of the Jewish people. I think if a Jewish person were writing this, you might get a totally different presentation. You know, it really is, for a believer it's fine, and but there's not, even Christian believers I'm sure would recognize that this is a pretty one-sided presentation, and there's not much Christian charity being shown here. I mean, it would be like picturing me, as I told you, going into the Crystal Cathedral in Garden Grove, and the reaction of the people there to me, picturing them as blaspheming, not me as blaspheming, but them as blaspheming, when they threw me out. I mean, you see, it's just, but of course, if you're the product of this, and 2 billion trillion people have been, and it's obviously a dominant approach, you're not going to see these aspects to it unless someone points it out. But again, my only excuse in doing this is to say that Christ, whomever he was, or whatever you think, or whatever others think he was, would expect you to be fair and to certainly treat his own people with fairness, and certainly not visit on them destruction for anything that happened to him, if in fact that's the reason, because he did these things willingly for the sake of all mankind. He didn't expect anyone to take vengeance on anyone or hate anybody, I would have thought. I'm not a preacher, but I could easily get a sermon up on this one. You could too. So I mean, you know, we have to try to understand that. And I don't think this is a fair picture, because when you go into someone else's church or synagogue and you're saying things that is against what the tradition that they love and respect and have been taught to follow their whole life, and they get upset, you don't say that they're filled with angry and blasphemed and so on and so forth. That's not the way you talk about them. You say they were upset that he went in there and said things that they were not prepared for. That would be a fair way to put it. And so anyway. So okay, since you're like this, we turn to the Gentiles, line 46. But again, we've read in Galatians, I keep bringing it up, that he was not supposed to go to the Jews with this message. Well, there it is right there. It's going to the Jews with the message. So, I mean, there's no way around it. You can't say, oh, he went into the synagogues and only spoke to the Gentiles in the synagogues. That would be, you know, like maybe not make people happy because the Gentiles had come to be part of the Jewish whatever thing it was. But you see, then to say, well, okay, your behavior, you don't want to hear me, we're going to go to the Gentiles, which I think is probably the truth of the matter. But I mean, it's not surprising you got the reception that is pictured here. Whether this is accurate or not, you'll have to decide. And then quote scripture, because we've been sent as a light to the Gentiles for the salvation of the end of the earth. I think it's Isaiah 49. Line 50, the Jews stirred up the women and they expelled them, and they shook the dust off their feet. So certainly, Paul's the hero of this narrative. I mean, the writer here is just totally enamored of Paul, and there's nothing that he does that the writer feels is maybe perhaps not marvelous. They go to Iconium,